All right, everyone. I have a very special guest here with me today. So thank you, everyone, for joining into this, quick little video tutorial. I have Calvin Lee joining me. Really excited to introduce Calvin Lee. So Calvin is an instructor at the Schulich School of Business, Canada's top MBA program, and he was an accounting instructor for both undergraduates and graduates. And he will be also teaching the technical portion of the Bookkeeping Legends course. So first of all, Calvin, very, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know you're a super busy guy and you have a lot on your schedule. So thank you so much.
Oh, I'm very, very excited to share the knowledge that I have and to help people along their journey of bookkeeping.
That's awesome. I know you're super passionate about bookkeeping in general. And we're going to talk about the course a little bit later on. But first of all, I just want to, first of all, tell us a little bit about kind of like your journey into the bookkeeping and accounting world. Like how did you get started? Why did you decide bookkeeping and accounting was it for you? And just kind of walk us through that entire journey.
Well, I started by volunteering for the tax agency and helping just low-income people to file their taxes. And then that got me interested in becoming an accountant or a bookkeeper. And because I think that it's a very, very practical career, and it's something that I can actually do for myself as well, for my own business and also for the businesses of other people, and also helping them in their personal finances as well. So I went on and got all the education that I needed. And also I've worked for the past 13 years in accounting. And when I worked in the accounting firms, I also had a lot of clients that had bookkeepers, but their bookkeepers just really struggled sometimes with the technical aspect of things. And then I saw how they struggled. And then in the firms, we have to actually help them. I remember one of the funniest times was one of the clients had absolutely no idea what they're doing for their bookkeeping, and then we actually had to go back in. So I was an auditor back then, so there was a senior and I was a junior at that time, and then basically the senior just said, "Wow, this bookkeeping is such a mess that we're just gonna leave you here, Calvin, for the next week, and you have to go and do all the bookkeeping for the entire year." And then at that time, I just decided, okay, you know, I need to go share this knowledge and help the people out. So besides fixing all their books for them, I had to make sure that I teach them, the basics of accounting and bookkeeping so that they can do it right the next year.
That's awesome. And I'm really glad you kind of shared with us a little bit about your personal journey, because I know, a lot of people, kind of have a little bit of this shiny object syndrome. And I think bookkeeping is starting to kind of get to that point where it's a little bit of that shiny object syndrome because, I don't know if you noticed, but Forbes, INC, and Entrepreneur all rated bookkeeping to be one of the #1 small businesses to start in 2020 and beyond. So it's definitely something that has gotten a lot, sexier over the last couple of years. And, with the whole pandemic happening, a lot of people have sort of been starting to, really, reflect and think about kind of what it is in their life that is next for them. And for a lot of people, I think bookkeeping does offer them that, sort of freedom because as a bookkeeper, I think you have a lot of flexibility in terms of your kind of career options. Would you say? Tell us a little bit about kind of, one of the things I love about bookkeeping is how flexible the career path is. But tell us a little bit about kind of, your thoughts on the flexibility of the bookkeeping profession, where you can kind of take, that bookkeeping career path.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I started out in the accounting firms, I saw how they used to do bookkeeping on big ledger papers, and then it was very clunky, and they had to use a ruler and measure out from the column here to the column there, and it was just a very big piece of paper, and it was just not very versatile. But fast forward, many years today, we have computers, we have the internet, so instead of just being confined to just having clients at your very local area, now that you're able to get clients from basically almost anywhere in your city or in your country or even in another country, which is not an issue because you can actually just ask them to send you a file. And there's so many cloud solutions nowadays. You can just upload your QuickBooks file, or even use QuickBooks Online, and you don't have to worry about the physical transferring of data anymore, where you can just send your accountant or the bookkeeper the information. They do their magic in the software, and then voila, and you can view, in a real time, your books being updated. And this is the fantastic part about technology nowadays, and how it has really transformed the bookkeeping career, is that it's so flexible nowadays, and you can also get clients so much more easier through social media. And I think it's just an exciting time to be a bookkeeper and to launch a bookkeeping career nowadays.
That's awesome, man. I completely agree with you. Just with Zoom, kind of all these cloud accounting solutions, QBO, QuickBooks Online, Zero. There's never been a better and kind of more profitable time to basically become a bookkeeper and basically create that life of your dreams, right? And I personally think there's a couple of different paths that you could, why someone would want to learn bookkeeping. The number one reason why someone would want to learn bookkeeping is, I would say, they treat this as a very good work from home opportunity, and they want to basically learn the foundations of bookkeeping and then eventually create their own online business, get clients, and basically be able to work from home and, grow from that. And there's definitely a very, very, long and strong pathway to grow the firm, right? Like, bookkeeping, you could do six figures, you could do seven figures, right? It won't be immediate. It'll take a lot of hard work, but that potential is there because it's such a scalable business model, which is something I absolutely love about it. The second reason why I think some people would want to become a bookkeeper is they want to get a job in industry, right? So maybe they want to work as work in an industry that excites them. And, that's a great thing about bookkeeping. It's so flexible. It's one of the few paths that allows you to work in so many different industries, whether it's, e-commerce, fashion, the restaurant industry. It's one of the, best ways to get your feet wet into so many different industries, which is something I love about it. And the third thing that I think bookkeeping, why someone would want to learn bookkeeping is, maybe you're a small business owner or you're an entrepreneur, and it's something that kind of scares you because, unless you're a trained accountant, you really don't know what a debit is, what a credit is, what a cash flow. You've heard terms like income statement, balance sheet, but kind of your finances are a bit of a mess, right?
I've
So
seen so much of that in my career. I remember the first entrepreneur that I worked with. He basically had like 15 different credit cards, and then he was making a lot of money. He was great as an entrepreneur, but when it comes to his finances, it was a complete mess, and he was paying so much interest and penalties, and he had no idea how to do his bookkeeping, and he just relied on the accounting firm so much.
that's hilarious because they say like entrepreneurs are really great at certain things like the vision, maybe the product, the strategy, but kind of the whole bookkeeping, the back end, they're not very good at that just because it's they sometimes it's a little bit confusing, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's not overly difficult, right? It's not I would definitely wouldn't say it's rocket science, but there is complexity to it. And I think entrepreneurs should all kind of get a little bit of a foundation in bookkeeping, whether they want to kind of do the books themselves. Like, let's say you're a small e-commerce owner, or you're running a little YouTube channel, and you really want to get more visibility into your finances. Then bookkeeping is a great way for you to kind of gain control over your profits, your expenses, and get that transparency. And also, the more you learn about the bookkeeping and get a solid foundation as an entrepreneur, eventually you want to outsource the activities that you're not really the best at and focus on your core competencies, your one thing that you're really, really good at. But in order for you to be able to outsource this bookkeeping and accounting function to someone else, right, you actually have to know the basics yourself, right? Otherwise, you don't know if you're making a good hire or a bad hire. And there's just so many bookkeepers out there that are unfortunately not great hires because there is no like professional designation for bookkeepers for say. So very, very interested, Calvin. You've been an instructor. You've seen so many different bookkeeping mistakes, and you've seen so many people develop their bookkeeping career paths. Walk us through like those three paths. Like the number one path is the people that want to do bookkeeping to start their own online business. The number two is the people that want to do bookkeeping so that they can work for a company. And the third path is those small business owners and entrepreneurs that want to learn bookkeeping to either take control of their own books or to eventually outsource that function.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think we live in a very exciting time that technology is so great, and it's so much more easier to start an online business or a traditional business nowadays than I think even just a decade ago. And technology has made it so much more accessible. And then governments are really also pushing tax incentives for small businesses. So a lot of people are starting up their own small businesses now, and as a result, there's this big demand for bookkeepers and accountants to keep things organized for these entrepreneurs. And I've personally met so many entrepreneurs that just absolutely struggle with the bookkeeping side of things. And so they actually need to hire a bookkeeper. That's why it's such a good opportunity. And then it also creates a lot of opportunities for people who want to get into the bookkeeping industry, because accounting firms are hiring bookkeepers to do books for their clients, and there are actually even bookkeeping firms nowadays that can hire bookkeepers to do the bookkeeping for clients, and they just specialize in doing bookkeeping. And bookkeeping never gets old because you can get clients from so many different industries, whether it could be in high tech, or it could be in, fashion, or it could be in construction, or whatever your passion is, or whatever type of client you want, or whatever type of industry you're interested in. There's just so much variety to work with, and each of them there's something different to learn, and you get to know those entrepreneurs, and it's just a very interesting and fascinating journey.
That's awesome. And, I think so. You've obviously instructed at Schulich's School of Business. You taught both undergraduates and graduates, the accounting and bookkeeping side of things. So walk us through a little bit about that experience. What was it like being a teacher? What were the kind of the key takeaways? Obviously, it's a super, competitive program. Schulich is Canada's top MBA program. What was that kind of process like teaching these students? Maybe some of them, they didn't actually know any accounting or bookkeeping before in the past.
Hmm. Yeah. So there were two main groups that I taught. So one, I taught at the bachelor's level. So these are high school students that just graduated, and they're getting into the commerce program at that time, and they're interested in pursuing a career in accounting. And so some of them might have a little bit of experience. They might have had a side job as a bookkeeper, and then they all want to expand their knowledge because they think their career will get better, which is true. The more knowledge you acquire, the more different types of industries and different types of clients you can get. And then there were the master level students. So I taught in the Master of Accounting program at Schulich, one of the top master's programs for that type. And one of the reasons why that Schulich is such a good school is because we attract students from all over the world. So they could be from Asia, they could be from Europe, they could be from the Americas, they could be from anywhere. And so all these students come together, and it creates a very interesting dynamic that most of them have zero knowledge of accounting. They just know that you can build a very solid career out of it, and it's a career that could last you for a lifetime. And then, so they come in, they don't even know what a debit or a credit is. I remember the first class, some of them are just so confused, especially because some of them, they're no longer in their 20s, they're in their 30s, they have a wife, they have 3 kids, they had a job in a different industry for like 10, 15 years. These are mostly mature students that have 10 plus years of experience. Some of them are even maybe close to 40. And the wonderful thing about bookkeeping is you can learn it at any age. And they come in with all this hope, and then they can learn these new skills. And some of them use it to complement the skills that they already have. So let's say they were in the construction industry before. Well, now they can combine it with the new business skills that they've learned, or they were in engineering before and engineering plus some accounting skills. Now they can have their own engineering firm, and they can also have that accounting background behind it. So it's wonderful, and it's so versatile what you can do. You can use the bookkeeping as a career solidly on its own, or you can pair it with another profession like engineering or anything really. So students really got really good value out of that program because they're able to create so much more value for themselves and for their client or for their own business.
That's amazing, and that's one of the things I love about the versatility of the bookkeeping industry. Is it allows you to pivot into so many different career paths, and there's a lot of other kind of professions out there where kind of like if you start off in that profession, you're kind of confined to it for like 5 to 10 years, and then you kind of have to keep going deeper and deeper into that particular profession or industry. But bookkeeping allows you to kind of pivot. Like there's just so much you can do with this sort of technical knowledge. And we were talking before in the past, and obviously, the way the whole world is shifting, I think there's been more and more of a focus onto that online delivery format of courses and education and e-learning. All right, and I'm very, very curious to kind of hear your thoughts in terms of the shift into this whole e-learning model from a more traditional college setting. We're obviously like do you believe it's possible for people to learn bookkeeping online and be successful, just as successful as some of the students that you taught at Schulich's School of Business in the MBA program?
Yeah, so in the past, I was a big believer of the traditional classroom setting where you have a teacher or instructor or a professor, and then you have a class of 10, 20, 30 people, and that was the best way to learn. You have textbooks, you have traditional chalkboards, and then you have your traditional assignments where you submit it to the instructor. Then you have tests and you have midterms, and so that was the way we used to learn in the past. But fast forward to today, it's actually a very exciting time because the problems with traditional education is that you have to set aside a lot of time. You have to commute to that particular physical location, and you can't just learn when you have time. And when you have a job, you have a spouse, and you have like kids and stuff like that, you're pretty busy, and going to a physical location sometimes could be a limiting factor for a lot of people who want to, learn more. And the online delivery, especially nowadays with smartphones and tablets and computers, we have apps, we have online courses, and these are things that you can learn, even if you have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, during your commute or, while you're traveling about. And so with this new online delivery nowadays, it's a type of on-demand education, and you don't have to carve out, 2 hours or 3 hours for a particular lecture. You can actually learn at your own pace. And the other good thing about learning online is if it's video content, you can rewind it and play it over and over and over again. And especially there are some really complicated concepts such as capital asset depreciation. And most people who are new to bookkeeping, oh my gosh, so many numbers in this chart. I have no idea what's going on. I'm so lost. And so if you're in a traditional lecture setting, like the instructor says that, the professor says that, and if you miss it, well, too bad. You can't go back and rewind and listen to it again. But with the new online format, you're able to watch and rewatch a difficult concept until you get it. And that's one of the fantastic things about technology nowadays. You get to learn it on your own terms. You get to learn it on demand. You get to learn it however you want. So it's so much more versatile. And with multimedia nowadays, you can have videos, you can have interactive quizzes, you can also, email or your instructor and get information if you need more information. It's just so much more versatile nowadays.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you, Calvin. I think just this shift that has happened even in the last couple of years has been so amazing to see, because it was something that I would have personally never imagined would happen when I was a kid. And just like yourself, I was always kind of skeptical of this whole e-learning format in the past, and I preferred the traditional kind of brick and mortar college setting. And just the way the world is shifting, so much of that has changed, and there's so much. It's so much more efficient to just kind of hop on your computer and be interacting with the professor and students that I feel it's a that it's a model to stay for a while. Uh, so one of the things that really kind of bothered me, and it was it was a problem that I was seeing commonly over and over again, was that there was really a lack of good, affordable bookkeeping online training available on the internet. So there are some good options out there, but they're priced pretty expensively. Some of them are actually $2,000 and above, and it's and obviously I think if you're someone that has that money and that can afford the course, then that's a good way to go about it. But it's for a vast majority of people, especially students, I would say $2,000 is a very kind of expensive price point. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Like $2,000. What? That's like somebody's entire paycheck, or maybe your entire mortgage check. It's just such a high level barrier to entry for a lot of people, and it's just not feasible for a lot of people to just shell out $2,000 for a course. And I think like that is kind of the limiting part for a lot of people. The financial. I mean, a lot of people are really smart. They just need something that is affordable so that they are able to learn the skills that they have. And right now, it's really difficult to find something that is, below that $2,000 mark. And that is just something that needs to change.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely on that. And, I've seen a lot of my friends struggle, people that are not in the accounting and bookkeeping profession. 2000, like for someone that has, maybe they're just working retail, or they're working, not the greatest job out there, right? $2,000, that could represent for some of these people, like, a month or even 2 months of their earnings, right? So it's actually, how do they kind of pivot into like a new profession if that barrier to entry is so high, right? So that was one of the things that kind of bothered me about the kind of like the whole online e-learning world of bookkeeping. The other thing that kind of bothered me, and you can let me know if you agree with me on this or not, is that a lot of bookkeeping courses that you find available online have a lot of focus on sort of marketing and basically selling your bookkeeping services, which is fantastic if you already have some of that technical bookkeeping knowledge, or you've worked as a bookkeeper for a number of years and you have that technical knowledge, right? And obviously there's various strategies to go around that. You could run Facebook ads, you could run YouTube ads, you could create YouTube videos, you can build a website, you could do email marketing, right? So there's a lot of great strategies that you could do to basically build your own online business. But what about that foundational piece, right? For the people that are just starting out, that are completely new to bookkeeping, that don't have any experience, right? If you just start off learning all these techniques about how to build and grow an online business when you don't actually have the physical foundation, I truly believe that is actually setting you up to fail. The reason why I say this, and this is my personal belief, is that bookkeeping and business in general is just like many, many different things in life. So let's say, for example, you're learning to play the piano, right? You can't just start off and know how to play Chopin etudes, right? You actually have to start at a very, very ground basic level, right? And what that involves is you start, practicing your scales, right? And maybe you practice a little bit of timing with the metronome, right? And then maybe you start getting, you start reading sheet music a little bit better. Then you get into a little bit more advanced pieces. Maybe you can start playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star or Happy Birthday. And then, things build up on that. Then you can play like Moonlight Sonata. And then before you know it, you're a world-class pianist. But it all starts off with that foundation, right? And this is why world-class pianists, even when they sort of start practicing music again, they always start with the scales, right? Or if you're a basketball player, you always go back to the basics, which is like dribbling the basketball or working on simple passes. And to think business and bookkeeping is any different is, in my opinion, completely a false belief that you can just go from here with zero foundation to basically having a very profitable online business in no time, right? there's a process. There's a process that goes into building these competencies from kind of step 0, step 1, step 2, step 3 that you actually have to go through in order to get to that stage. Because bookkeeping is not get rich quick, right? It's a long-term sustainable career path that you're looking to build for yourself. But it all starts off with that foundation of technical knowledge. So, Calvin, I really like to hear your opinion on this. And is this a trend that you're seeing in the industry, that it's too much focus on monetization in the beginning, and less so on building that technical foundation that will set your career for success long term, like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line? People are too focused on marketing techniques and not enough on the solid foundation.
I absolutely agree with you that you need both sides of things. It's kind of like having two arms. You have to have that technical aspect and you have to have that marketing aspect in order to succeed in any type of business. And you're absolutely right. You have to start from the very foundations. And I know this because I'm actually a pianist myself. I started when I was 4 years old and I've been learning for, several decades now. And we start off with grade 1. And say grade 1, you have to start off with, let's say, 10 scales, which is those those things that you have to learn. And I know those are not the most fun things to learn, but they basically build the muscles in your fingers, and then you get stronger. And with each successive grade, you have to pick up more and more scales. You have to learn more and more technique. And it's the same thing with bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, you have to first know your debits and credits before you learn how to do capital asset depreciation, all those numbers. You'll be just so confused, like, oh, what's going on? And that's actually one of the areas that most of bookkeepers I see struggle, and they have no idea how to do that. It's because they did not have that foundational skill. They did not learn their skills first of all. And so bookkeeping, there are obviously, you have to start from the beginning, like debits and credits, and you have to understand why assets equal liabilities plus equity, and why the balance sheet has to balance. And if the balance sheet doesn't balance, you don't have a balance sheet. And these are all very fundamental knowledge that you have to know before you can actually succeed. And I think it's very important to start with small incremental steps. The beginning, the fundamentals of bookkeeping are not very difficult to learn. Most people, if you put in the effort, you're able to learn the foundations. And then as you progress, you learn more and more so that you're able to do more. Because bookkeeping, like a lot of professions, you have to keep growing with it, and you have to be continuously educated. You have to learn more and more so that you can adapt to the demands of the industry or the economy. And so you're absolutely right. You have to start with the foundations, and then after that, then you can move on to the marketing. And because without the foundations, you can have all the marketing, but then when it comes to doing the actual job, you have to have those technical skills. Very important.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I think we both agree on is that most bookkeepers are not that great because they really lack that technical foundation. And as experienced kind of CPAs ourselves, it's quite easy to tell who is a good bookkeeper and who is just kind of full of BS, right? Or just kind of like it's very, very common, right, for experienced business owners that have an accounting background to know if you're actually good or if you're just, someone that kind of, tried to skip a couple of steps along the way. And I'm sure you saw a lot of that in, kind of working in industry yourself, Calvin. So it's something I'm very passionate about. But in terms of sort of like, if someone has absolutely zero bookkeeping knowledge or zero accounting knowledge, right? So let's say they start off with a blank slate. How would you train this person, Calvin? Just because I know, you were an instructor, you taught people with absolutely zero knowledge in an online format. How would you teach these people to kind of get from, where it is that they are, where they are currently, which is someone with zero bookkeeping experience, to that transformational aspect, right? That journey from, no experience to someone who reaches their end goal, whether it's, working for someone as a bookkeeper, starting their own online business, or being able to outsource, bookkeeping functions to someone else. Like where do you start off with?
Yeah, I absolutely I think it's very important to start off with the basics first of all. So you have to start off with, the debits and credits. And then personally, I think it's better to teach as a very practical aspect, and then the theory can come afterwards if it's absolutely necessary. And so I think for a lot of bookkeepers, the problem with a lot of courses is that they just give you way too much theory and way too much background information. And for a lot of people, I think the most important thing for them is, how do I record this particular transaction? Or I got this form from the government. What do I do with it? So that practical side, I think, is very important. So I think some foundational skills like debits have to equal to credits, and then I think it's important to show a lot of different examples, and which I like to do myself, to give a lot of examples, because it illustrates, how a certain concept or a certain point or how bookkeeping is actually done. And to keep things practical, keep things easy to understand, that is the style that I like to teach. And then as the student gets more comfortable with the subject, then we can talk more about building concepts on top of other concepts. And then this little step by little step, this is how you learn, and then this is how you adapt to more different situations. So this is, I think, the best way to learn, and for a lot of students.
That's awesome. And Calvin, I know you're a super nice and humble guy. And for all the listeners out there, Calvin will never say this or boast about himself, but the reviews from some of the students that took Calvin's physical course in Schulich were absolutely amazing. Just the feedback and the testimonials and kind of the transformation that some of these students kind of went through by taking your course. And it's just, you definitely have a passion for teaching, Calvin, that I believe is just very inspirational and has that ability to really motivate others to really get to their best. So
Yeah.
Kudos to you for that, and very, very inspirational story. What are the three things that Calvin, you would say, if you were giving advice to someone that's just starting out, like maybe you're confused, right? Because I find the internet, there's just so much information about, like, you're watching a YouTube video and suddenly there's an ad about drop shipping, make money using Shopify, do Amazon FBA, make YouTube videos. There's this new Forex strategy, start your own social media marketing agency, right? So people are just like overwhelmed with information. And the reason why a lot of people do not take action is because of information overload, right? And the other thing that, that kind of bothered me, it was that there's a lot of information out there, and truthfully, the internet has a lot of free information as well, right? Like information today is so easily accessible, but it's that I think it's really that coaching and that personal mentorship and that kind of like one-on-one touch that can really help transform students, right? Like that kind of one-on-one feel. And is that something you feel strongly about as well, Calvin? Like spending time with students in the past? Obviously, you're there, you give the lecture, you provide the information, but do you really felt that transformation occurred during those like kind of more personal one-on-one touches, some of that individualized coaching aspects?
Oh, absolutely. When I was teaching the Master of Accounting students, and these are people from other careers, they did not have any accounting background, and I wanted to actually know all 32 of them like individually. So I actually did, set up some time with each of them individually just to chat and just to see what kind of background they come from and what kind of needs and wants they actually want out of the course. Because I think it's very important to, tailor the course or the material so that it's actually useful for the students. And then so, they come from many different backgrounds, and I think it was nice to have those one-on-one talks. And then even throughout the entire course, or even nowadays, we're talking like many years afterwards, I still keep in touch with some of them. And, they are now in, really good, paying positions in accounting or in bookkeeping after they finish the course. And I think it's that personalized learning that they had. They were really ignited to learn, and that really ignited their passion to learn, more about, the technical side of things. And so I think for students, I think it's very important that they, know what they want, and then maybe also to communicate that with the instructor or have some interactions so that the best result could happen.
That's absolutely amazing to see those stories of transformation of success from someone with no bookkeeping experience, going through a career change to successfully working as a bookkeeper or accountant in industry afterwards. That's absolutely transformational. So Calvin, I want to be very respectful of your time as well, but I just had a couple of final questions. I know a lot of students are curious about this new course, Bookkeeping Legends, and kind of what makes us different from $2,000 online courses out there. What makes us different from basically the free information that you can find on the internet, right? What are those three things that kind of really differentiate and distinguish this course? Is it the individualized coaching? Is it the teaching style? Is it that kind of like that track record of transformation? Walk us through a little bit about this course and why you think it's going to absolutely transform some of the lives of the students that take it.
I think the individualized coaching really sets a tone, and it really helps the student because they all have different learning styles. Like some students, they could learn more like visually, so they look and see, or they see a PowerPoint and they learn it that way. Or some of them actually have to learn by listening. So when somebody explains things to them, that is the best way to learn. And some other people, the best way they learn is that they take those, like they have to do something, do exercises or solve problems. And I think what we can do here is that we can offer the students, when the personalized coaching, we get to know exactly, how a student likes to learn, what their individual problems are, and they can actually have those time to ask questions about how to do something, because not all students struggle with the same thing, right? They struggle with different aspects. Some struggle with the numbers, some struggles with the concepts. And I think for us, the important thing is that we listen to what the students need, and we try to create, not only just have the digital course, but we also have the personalized coaching. And I think having the two together really solves some of the issues with traditional, brick and mortar learning in college or university, where most of the time you just sit there and listen to just a professor or lecturer talk, and then, like I said before, you might forget what they said as soon as you walk out the door, and you also don't have that time to have that one-on-one coaching, because a lot of them are actually very busy, and the classes may have like 30, 40, 50 students in it, especially for the beginner level accounting courses, where the beginner bookkeepers start. They're usually like 50, 100, or maybe even more in a big lecture hall. You just don't have that personalized coaching side. And actually for me as well, it was kind of hard because there's so many students and you're just a number in those kind of settings. So I think having this course where you can keep referring back to the material you need in the digital product, and you also have that one-on-one personal coaching, I think it really completes that picture of the best way to learn.
That's awesome. That's absolutely amazing, Calvin, and I couldn't agree with you more. Just because everyone is different and everyone has a unique learning style, so it's more about how do you effectively connect with each student to kind of help help them learn the best way. And that's something that an experienced teacher like you obviously have a lot of experience in identifying those strengths and weaknesses of the students and catering your style to help them help them learn the most effective way that they possibly can. So being very mindful of time, and thank you so much, Calvin. I know super busy guy. I just wanted to end off by the top 3 tips of advice that you have for someone that is brand new, that is just starting off. Right, it's a very scary time right now with the whole pandemic and everything happening in the world. And just what are those 3 top tips of advice for someone that is just starting out there? They have thoughts about the bookkeeping profession. They think this might be the path for them. They're scared about going down the wrong path. But what are those 3 tips of advice for someone that is really interested in starting this whole bookkeeping journey?
I think the courage is very important, like to take the plunge and to try something new. it's a scary thing, and I think it's very important that if you have your mind on wanting to do something, is to not let fear hold you back. You have to give yourself a chance, and just think about it this way: like when you're like 95 years old, and you're sitting in a rocking chair, and you'll be like thinking back and thinking, man, I wish when I was in my 20s or 30s, I wish I took that plunge and that leap of faith and to try that bookkeeping career. I wish I did that, but I just never had the courage to. You don't want to be that person when the day comes. And then the second thing is, just don't worry about not having skills. We all start from zero whenever you start a new career, or you're trying to learn something new. You always have to remember that everybody starts at zero, and don't let that hinder you just because you know nothing about the career. Everybody learns through time. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes effort to learn something. So don't let, oh, I'm too young or I have no time. Don't let these be excuses for you to not try and take this step. And I also think it's very important that once you decide to take this program, is that you have to really dedicate time to it. It's not something that you can just learn very quickly because there are a lot of different things to learn. But in this course, we're obviously going to take you, step by step from ground zero and then up to the level of knowledge that you need. And then also don't be afraid to, ask questions and to keep on learning new things, because in today's day and age, you just have to keep on improving yourself. You can't just you can no longer just like learn one thing and then just say, okay, that's it. We live in a time where the things are always changing, technology is always changing, the standards are always changing, and just to keep that open mindset, I think is absolutely very, very important for this type of career.
That's absolutely amazing, Calvin, and I couldn't agree with you more. Fear is something that holds a lot of people from taking the action. And I know Jeff Bezos even talked about the regret minimization framework. If you were 80 years old and you looked back at your life, what are the things that you sort of would regret? And it's definitely for me. I think your three points of advice are so helpful for people that are just starting off in that bookkeeping journey. So I just wanted to, thank you so much. I know you're a super busy guy, and for spending this block of time with us to explain to the students of Bookkeeping Legends in terms of the course delivery and the format. I know you're working super hard to build up an awesome course. If you guys are interested in the Bookkeeping Legends course, you can check out the details below. All the information is available there. It's a really exciting time. Calvin, once again, is an experienced instructor from Schulich School of Business, Canada's top MBA program. He will be teaching the technical portion of this course. It's going to be a fantastic course. And I know personally, I'm really, really excited to see it. And I hope you guys are too. Any final words, Calvin, before we let you go?
I think that's great, and I really look forward to guiding those of you who wish to take and go on this journey. It's a really exciting one, and it's one with a lot of different, lot of variety in what you can do. So if you're looking to do something different nowadays, now I think it's a good time to make the change or to try something new. So I think now is a good time to try this, and I wish you guys all the best.
Thank you so much, Calvin, once again. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future. And thank you so much.
Thank you.